Hello everybody, hopefully you can all hear me okay. We're going to do another live stream. Hopefully this is working okay. We'll find out when people start coming in, I would imagine. I'm just going to turn the volume down slightly because it looked like it was a little bit too loud, even though I am talking very, very quietly. Okay, I think we're live. I'm very new to all of this live streaming, so I've got no idea if anyone is listening or anyone's in the chat, which is a live chat, so I can see what's going on. I can see participation. Good. I think I am ready to start. But I might not get started too soon because I'll wait and see if someone pops up. Uncle Bob has joined us. Hello, Bob. How you doing? Welcome to another live stream. How you doing? All things good over there in the US? I hope so. We're going to be doing four-wheel drives today, mate. I know you were interested in me doing some like buggies and truggies and monster truck things you wanted, didn't you? But I've not had a chance to compile the list for that yet, so we're still looking at buggies today. Four-wheel drive buggies. And we'll start off with the hot shot. So as before, I'm going to be putting these onto the grid in the position that I think they should go. S being the highest tier, D being the lowest tier. And the hot shot to me is one of my RC idols. It was one of the first RCs that I really genuinely wanted. And it was also Tamiya's first RC, wasn't it? It was the first one that they had used as a four-wheel drive model. And this particular model back in the day was very big, very bulky. It had it still does have a tiny little tub where all the electronics go in. It's really fiddly to get in there and work. I still, to this day, cannot work out how they got all the servos and batteries and everything else in there they would have needed back in 1984, I think it was released. 1985. I just don't know how they'd have got all that done. But I love this thing. I love the way it jumps. I love the way it drives. It's a bit bulky. But I think for now I'm going to slide it up into S tier and we'll revisit it as we go. Whether it stays there in S or not, I don't know. But we'll see. We'll see how we go. Who else has joined the chat? We've got a few other people in. We've got the other Andy Hall is there. How you going? Are you good, Andy? Nice to see you. Toby's joined. Hi, Toby. How you doing? Good to see you. Joe, how you doing there, Joe? Hot shot should be number one. Yes, already started off. Certainly up towards that top slot, but there could be other things that get moved in above the hot shot as we go. Things on the left will be at the top. Things towards the right will be at the lower end of that scale. So as we slot things in, you'll see things move around, and things may get promoted up or down as they did last time. Next one up is the super hot shot or super shot that came next on the time frame. I'm going to put that as an A. I'll tell you why in a second. But I actually really liked the gold wheels on this one, so much so that I put gold wheels on my hot shot. And I can't remember, but I think the hot shot had gold wheels on originally, but it was the Riri that had the white ones. But someone will tell me if I was right or wrong with that assessment. I can't remember whether I was quite right on that or not. Guys say never had a hot shot, but I'm tempted to agree. Loved building the hot shot, Toby, but I also hated it, if you know what I mean. Yeah, I think I know what you mean. I loved it because I'd idolised it as a kid. But it's not an easy RC to work on, and it's not great at going around corners. It jumps really nicely because it's quite heavy. So once you get it airborne, it travels quite nicely in the air. But the suspension's all a bit funny, isn't it? On the hot shot. I'm just trying to work out how I pin the live chat because every time I move off of it, I lose the I lose it. There we go. Hopefully that's better now. Hopefully I won't lose it every time I click somewhere now. Oh no, I still lose it. Really, really annoying. I'm going to pop this chat out here. Pop the chat out there. Then I'll be able to see you guys. Right, let's go back to our list. Right. So we did the hot shot. We did the super hot shot. What comes next on the timeline? We move on to the boomerang, which is this one here. I've never had any sort of affiliation with the boomerang. I know people like it. It was re-released, wasn't it? Was it last year? Year before that? It was re-released. I quite liked it. It says here that the kit came... The boomerang was the same drivetrain as the hot shot. What were the differences in the boomerang? Does anyone know what was specifically different about the boomerang compared to the hot shot in the chassis? I mean, there must be some differences, but I can't remember what they were off the top of my head. Still had the monoshock. Did it have separate rear shocks on the boomerang? I think it did. It had separate shocks at the rear. Yeah, very cool, very cool. Big wig. Now this one was very different. I like the big wig. Probably like the big wig more than I like the super shot. And big wig is pretty close to S for me. Pretty close to S. The reason being is I never, as a kid, I never liked the design of the big wig. I thought it looked ugly. But as an RC fan, more of an RC fan now, and not just a boy who thought RCs were cool, I think the big wig looks really, really cool. And reading into the big wig, because I didn't really know too much about it, it was released to commemorate 10th anniversary of the birth of Tamiya's first electric RC car. I didn't know that. The 934 Turbo. It had a lot of attention because of its body design, which I can see, created by Mooncraft's Takayuki Yuri. I probably said that wrong, and I apologise. And that was Japan's leading full-scale racing car designer at the time. Pretty cool. It was based on the concept of a buggy-like strength matched with aerodynamics. And the design features a low, sharp sill leading to a large integrated wing generating downforce throughout the body. I mean, it is really cool. And I think as a design, I like it a lot more now. And I wish I had the Tamiya tokens to pick one up at the minute, but I don't. And I worry that by the time I get around to having the Tamiya tokens to get one, they'll be gone again. But that's just the way it goes sometimes, isn't it? Right, have a quick comments over here. We've got, if a boomerang is B, you might need an E and an F category. Yeah, I might do, Andy. Yeah. Maybe the boomerang will drop down as we put some other stuff up. We'll see how we get on. You know, I don't want to relegate it too quickly. I put it in B because it definitely falls below the others to me in that range. But next up is another one that I worry will fit somewhere strange, and I'll have a whole load of people telling me they don't like where I put it. The Hot Shot 2, which I actually don't like. I never liked that design. Don't like the colour scheme on it. For me, the Hot Shot was iconic. The Hot Shot 2 was just another reissue or another version of the boomerang, I suppose. Again, let me know if you think I am wrong in what I'm saying. It was black. There were some improvements made from the original. The monoshock at the rear was replaced by a twin shock. Yada. So, yeah, actually, thinking about it, maybe it goes like that. Because I'm not too keen on the Hot Shot 2, and I'm not too keen on the boomerang. So maybe that way round, perhaps. Uncle Bob says, I'm not a fan of monoshocks on an off-road buggy. That's just me. Yeah, I'm not a fan of the monoshocks either. I just like them on the Hot Shot because I thought they were super cool. Monoshocks, I don't think, do a particularly good job. I mean, on an Orchard Raceway type environment, they're probably okay. But if you were doing any sort of serious racing, there's a reason why we have 4 shocks on a buggy these days and not 1 or 3 or 2 or whatever. Right, Super Sabre. Super Sabre for me goes somewhere down here. Maybe I don't know. Do like the Super Sabre looks. different, but it's in the mix really. Not really one that I'm a particular fan of. Um, I suppose for these sort of vintage buggies, I often find that there was one or two that you had a real affiliation to as a child or as a young adult, and then that's what carries you through to your opinion on them now. So for me, I sat and looked at the Hot Shot over and over and over and over again every single time the Tamiya catalogue came out. I was there looking at that because I wanted it. So that kind of means that you have this attraction to it as an adult more. And then you start to branch off and investigate other things. Um, Bob's just posted up, same here, I hated the big wig, but I have one and now I love it. Yeah, and I think, isn't that funny? It's the way these things go sometimes. Something that you are so polar on, when you get to then actually getting one and having a go on it, you switch completely the opposite way. I wonder whether we'll all be talking of. No, I won't save it. I'll save it for later. I'll save it for later. Um, the other Andy Hall says difficulty is balancing performance versus iconicness, especially as we get to the newer stuff. In my opinion, Tamiya's best four-wheel drive is way newer, and I wouldn't necessarily put it in S. I think we might see that actually. That despite the fact that there are newer buggies that will be better than these, they probably don't carry the same iconicness as some of these buggies do. We'll see as we plough on through the list. Next I've got is the Thundershot. The Thundershot was the start of a new chassis, the Dragon chassis for Tamiya. I don't like it. I really don't like it. Lots of people were getting really excited about it when it was being re-released, and I couldn't understand what all the fuss was about. But I'm going to surprise you all in a minute with some of the other ones. I just couldn't get over what all the fuss was about. Everyone was saying, "Oh, Thundershot's back. It's great, isn't it? Great, isn't it? Brilliant." It was never one that I was really drawn to in any particular way because I just thought it looked a bit bulbous, to want of a better word. But when it comes to the next one, the Thunder Dragon, that for me probably sits up here somewhere. Maybe not as good as the Big Wig now, but certainly for me that's an A. It's an A buggy because of the way it looks, not necessarily the way it drives. Now, what I would say about that chassis, I built the Thunder Dragon. I built the Thunder Dragon, probably going back 2 years or so now. I think I built it up. And I was blown away by how good that chassis drives, even today, as an RC buggy. It's just fun. It traction rolls a little bit on the grass, so you have to be careful you don't sort of just swing it in the corner. You have to come off the power, let it go into a corner and then reapply it again. But it's just a really nice chassis. It jumps well, it handles predictably, and actually I can drive that pretty fast around the orchard. And I was really surprised. It really blew me away. I was not expecting it to be as quick as it is. And the Thunder Dragon, I just love the styling of that. If you've seen the channel, I did mine as sort of almost like an X-Wing. I did it as an X-Wing tribute. And I did that because I really liked the way it looked. It just looked great to me. So I sort of created this sort of X-Wing tribute. But actually the livery that it comes in and the way that Tamiya designed that buggy around some sort of anime series, I thought it was great. Americans put in their TRF, DB01, DF01, DB02. Yeah, I think we're going to have some interesting conversations when we get to those because, they're going to have to slot in here and move some of the other ones around. Absolutely, yeah. Okay, where we go next? We get, so the Thundershot and the Thunder Dragon. Thundershot came out in 87. And the Thunder Dragon came out in March 10th, 88. So, Tamiya were coming thick and fast with these things. Super Sabre was out in October 29, 87. And the Hot Shot 2 was May 21, 87. So, that's four-wheel drive buggies in the space of a year. And then, just to make things more complicated, March 31st in 1988, Tamiya released the Avante. And I'm going to shock loads of people here because for me, it kind of goes middle of the pack for me at the minute. I don't really like the Avante, and I know for a lot of people that's going to be absolutely horrible to hear. I don't like the look of it. I've never held one. Well, no, that's not true. I have held one in my hands. I don't like the look of it. It feels fragile to me, and maybe that's just because it's that old design. Yeah, but it looks just a bit funny. Now I appreciate all the tech and everything that goes into that, but we will come on to the Egress in a little bit. Tamiya redefined it very much for the Egress. There'll be a lot of people when that Avante came out that it just blew their mind. It was just doing something completely different. And I was reading I was going through the Tamiya 50-year magazine from Japan that I got. And I just sort of read some of the stuff it said about the Avante from there. It was a high performance race buggy developed specifically for expert drivers. Oh, hang on, I've just lost it because I changed my formatting. Where did I get to? Sorry. Expert drivers, easy, simple. It was simple and easy to maintain FRP double deck chassis. Suspension arms, adjustable light alloy ball connectors, allowed for flexible suspension geometry adjustments. Standard inclusion of specifically designed metal oil dampers. Shaft-driven four-wheel drive, Technigold. Oh well, okay. Technigold motor that came as standard in that kit. That's pretty cool. That probably moves it up for me. How packed. I forgot that there was that Technigold in there. Here's another fact as well that I read in this magazine. So the differential was roughly half the size of the Thundershots differential. And then it also obviously had the ball diff in there as well. And there was some sort of centre differential in there as well. I mean, a huge amount of technology at the time. Absolutely huge amount. So what the guys saying in the comments, should be S all day long. Terrible race car, amazing buggy and build. I bet. I've got an Egress to build. I haven't built it yet. I'm saving it for a special build at some point. And for me, that's probably as close as I'll get to building the Avante. The Avante's great if you're a wizard tuner. Toby said, always wanted an Avante, but it costs way too much for what it is. Yeah, I think that's probably where a lot of people will sit on it, isn't it? Given that people accepted the flaws of the Avante back in the day, you would be buying it for the nostalgia rather than buying it because it's a class race buggy at this point. Andy Hall says the Riri front knuckles transformed reliability, but it needs thread lock everywhere, even on the suspension links. Jill Losey said he modelled the XXX front end off an Avante. Lewis, how you doing? Avante's styling is not very appealing. yeah. I think it's one for some and not for another. It's a bit of a Marmite car, I think. The next release, so that came out in March. So after a year of 5 four-wheel drive RCs, Tamiya took 6 months or so off before they released the Terra Scorcher in December 1988. And the Terra Scorcher is another one for me that I put right at the top of the stack. And I'll tell you for why I put it right at the top of the stack. Again, if I go back to my early years in RC, the Terra Scorcher was the sort of peak of affordable RCs that I could see at the time. So the Avante was way off the scale. I mean, I'd looked at it in the catalogues and I would go, oh my gosh, that looks amazing. But you go and look at it in the model shops and there's just no way I was convincing my parents that they were going to buy me one of those as an RC. But the Terra Scorcher sat in that affordable, dreamy space where, maybe one day I might have got one. Hey, Paul. And I would always look at the Terra Scorcher because it had 4 shocks on it, which against my hotshot idol, 4 shocks equals better. It had sway bars front and back. It had bearings as standard in the kit. These were things that felt premium to me when I was a kid looking at these things. So, for me, it's S tier. And I built my Terra Scorcher Riri last year. Thoroughly enjoyed the build. I swapped out the CVA shocks and put the high caps off the well, the VQS, the Vanquish high caps that I put on the Terra Scorcher, and it is beautiful. It's lovely drive, looks great, drives great. Been really happy with it, and again, just like the Hot Shot when I built that and ran that, the Terra Scorcher really did live up to my boyhood thoughts on that model. Absolutely. So I love that. Love the styling of it. Love the way it drives. Really, really happy with it. Right, talking about the Vanquish, that's the next one on the list. The Vanquish would probably split a huge amount of opinions, okay? I'm going to put the Vanquish in B. So the Vanquish came out shortly after the Terra Scorcher, December 20th, 1988. I mean, who would release it sort of 5 days before Christmas? I don't know. But that to me was sort of a poor man's Avante, wasn't it? It had a tub chassis rather than that FRP plate. There was a lot of compromise. I think it was gear diffs, and there was a lot of compromises going on within the Vanquish to make it a more affordable version of the Avante. And that's exactly what it was. It gave people a slightly more achievable entry-level racer. It says, while retaining the chassis configuration with the battery on the right, the motor mounted longitudinally, it's hard for me to say, on the left, the frame was redesigned to a monocoque type, and both the suspension and frame are made of ABS resin, reducing the set's weight and achieving significant weight reduction. That was what it said about the Vanquish. Very interesting. Hotshot 2 needs to go up, says Nathan. Sorry, Nathan. Yeah, it might well do, but I also must warn you it might well go down as we put some more stuff in. You're late, Paul. Yeah, Paul's usually tries to be first to everything, doesn't he? He missed out getting his first post up on this one. That was actually Bob. Well done, Bob. You were first today. Good job, buddy. Good job. Okay, where are we going next? The Fire Dragon. So, when I talk about RCs that I'm not a big fan of, not a big fan of the Fire Dragon. Now, I appreciate where the design came from in the same way that the Thunder Dragon, it was part of this sort of anime series and anime type design, but it really isn't one for me. However, that chassis will drive very, very nicely, just like the Thunder Dragon does. Right. Now, next comes the Egress. The Egress for me is another one that's up here. And it sits up there mostly because it is that premium 90s kit that I would have salivated over as a young lad flicking through the catalogues going, oh man, that's a dream RC. That is. And it took everything about the Avante and made it better, I believe. That was, bear in mind, this is June 29, 1989. So this is only, 4 years after the Hot Shot came out. And they've got this just amazing looking, and I think it is an amazing looking RC. Far better looking than the Avante for me, but I know everyone's going to be split on that. So what did the Egress do? It evolved the Avante platform. Double deck frame was upgraded to carbon. Same material. It says here in the Japanese the catalogue. It said the same material used in F1 scale cars. Titanium screws were used throughout the chassis, resulting in a lightweight and highly rigid chassis. It's interesting. I wonder whether the Riri's got titanium screws in it. I doubt it has, actually. I doubt it. I'll have to have a look at that. The shaft-driven forward drive train featured front and rear ball differentials and a centre torque splitter for both high drive efficiency and smooth cornering, double wishbone suspension, high-capacity dampers on each of the four wheels, tyres fitted with hybrid spikes, cut pins, versatile performance on various surfaces. It was the ultimate buggy design with an extravagant selection of parts designed solely for racing victory. So Tamiya really took the Egress took the Avante and moved it on for the Egress. And for me, it's the one that I wanted. It's the one that I looked at as a kid and said, that's the one I want, because it was just a better version of the Avante. I appreciate all the engineering that went into the Avante, but for me, it was all about the Egress. What we got here, Bob's in the chat. Bob said he always liked the Terra Scorcher but missed out on it. Yeah, that reread, didn't it? And it reread during the pandemic. And I think it was kind of a lot of people that life was busy and everyone was distracted and people just overlooked it. And I got mine for a really great price. And then they were just gone, never to be seen again. I'm sure we'll see the Terra Scorcher come back again. Andy Halls dropped in the comment and said, the Egress long wheelbase and inverted deck versus the Avante mean you only have to take the body off to change the battery rather than the under tray. Is that what happened with the Avante? You had to take the under tray off to get the battery in and out. I didn't realise that. Did not realise that at all. What a faff. So going back to the Avante, sort of a year later, the Avante 2001 came out. Simplified plastic suspension arms, shocks with a long wheelbase, sport-tuned motor was sufficient for club racing. Don't really know a lot about this one. Don't really know a lot about it. A lot of people want this one reread, don't they? The 2001. I can't put it above the original. Let's stick it as a low A because I like the wheels. I much prefer the white wheels actually than the yellow ones. It sounds like they tried to do something different with this. No, I'll put it high B. They tried to do something different with the 2001, didn't they? And they tried to just make it slightly better. But yeah, never really caught my attention. But there's a lot of people who want that 2001 one to be reread. Maybe we shall see it. Maybe we won't. Bob, I love the Egress too. Have you got an Egress, Bob? I can't remember seeing if you had. Andy Hall said, if I raced an Egress, I'd use the 2001 body. Yeah. I think a lot of people prefer the body on the 2001, don't they, to the to some of the more modern buggies that we've got coming out today. Right, I've got another one for you that's going to split opinions. The Manta Ray, and people are going to think I'm crazy when I do this. So the Manta Ray is going to go up here. It's going to be a high A for me. I've slipped it in above the Thunder Dragon. I love the Manta Ray. I think it looks really quirky. It looks kind of futuristic to me, which is why I like it. I like the wheels on it. But now I've driven that DF01 chassis, and I know how good it is. I think that's a mightily impressive car. And if I think back to the day, that kit would have been reasonably affordable for people. And it just would have been such a transformation for those people that have been knocking around driving maybe hot shots, maybe Thunder Dragons, or, if you were still driving two-wheel drives and you picked up a Manta Ray, you would have been very, very happy with your purchase and you would have really, really enjoyed driving that thing. And I know that the DF01, just like the TA chassis, come up with their own issues, but I just think that's such a great chassis. It's so much fun to drive around in, and people would have been really, really pleased with it. But the Manta Ray splits a lot of opinions, doesn't it? Because people don't like the look of the body. I think some people find it great, and some people hate it. Andy Hall looks like he's agreeing with me there. No problem with the A for Manta Ray. I used to love the body, but now I don't. But I also don't care. The first of an amazing series. Even the TA 01, 02, 03 touring cars. Yeah, I think you're right. I think it landed at the right time, didn't it? Everyone was ready for something different. Along comes a new chassis. Those TA chassis were fantastic, but the DF01 was an absolute smasher. And that Manta Ray was then followed up. I'm just looking at how long later. So the Manta Ray came out in October 1990, and a year later, Tamiya dropped the Top Force. And for me, the original Top Force is going to go high A. And that's only because in the S has to be the Top Force Evo, which is the next one at the bat. And for me, the Top Force Evo jumps straight to my top position. So the Top Force comes with a lightweight double-deck fiberglass reinforced plate chassis. It was a huge improvement. CVA shocks. There were some other bits and pieces, but I think it was the chassis that was the big difference between the Manta Ray and then the Top Force. But then the Top Force Evo comes along, and that has carbon fibre chassis deck, ball differential, turnbuckles, the one-way drive system, the one-way. It's got that one-way splitter in, hasn't it? Um, just amazing. I can't remember. Did that come? I'm sure that came with titanium screws originally as well, or maybe had a set. Um, what else was special about it? But did it have bearings out the box in the Top Force Evo? I can't remember. I remember it being laid out in the box really nice when I bought that one. Beautiful kit, absolutely beautiful. But here's the thing. Here's the thing about the Evo. When I bought the Top Force Evo, I got it on a deal, and I was in two minds about to get it or not, because I didn't like the look of it. I didn't like the sweeping, design of the buggy, and I was in two minds about getting it. And I didn't like the fact it was in one color, and I couldn't change the color on it, and I bought it in the end, and I'm so glad I did, because it's such. Oh, it had high cap dampers as well on it, didn't it? The Evo, that was another massive difference. I'm so glad I bought it, because the looks, once I built it, I had it sat on the bench. It's just a beautiful, stunning RC. Absolutely amazing. Love it. And I can see what all the fuss is about. And then I drove it, and it just drives perfectly out of the box. It is just bob on. There's nothing wrong with that car at all, except Andy is right. No slipper clutch, but did that really hold it back in the day? Not really. Does it hold it back today? I suppose if you're doing serious racing, you'd want that slipper clutch on it. But bashing around on the Ultra Raceway, it is absolutely fine. It is fantastic. I put the one way in mine. So when you come off the power, the front wheels continue to rotate, continue to spin like a two-wheel drive would. And a lot of racers don't like that, but I race quite a lot of two-wheel drive. I like my two-wheel drive cars, and I suppose it's helped that the feel of the Top Force is just right for me, and I like the fact that I could tune it. That was really cool, being able to sort of tune it to how I wanted it. So yeah, absolutely iconic Tamiya. Goes straight to the top of my list. So that was June of 1992. The Top Force Evo came out. What a buggy! Tamiya then followed up in December of 92 with the Terra Conqueror. And I was reading about this, and I didn't realise when I was reading about it, there was a number of improvements made over the chassis. It had two ball differentials instead of one ball and one gear. It had turnbuckles, a solid steel prop shaft, and a full set of shielded ball bearings in the kit as well. So when that came out, and I mean the price point would have been slightly higher than the Manta Ray, people must have gone crazy for that Terra Conqueror. And I don't know how long that was around for. I mean, they're like hen's teeth. You can't get them easily these days. I like it. I think the Terra Conqueror's got to be up there, just behind the Manta Ray for me, because it's just such a nice looking buggy. Super cool. Then we go to the what's next? The Dirt Thrasher, which is another DF platform. Don't like the decals and the body on that one, so I'm just going to put it down here in the B. It gets in the B because it's still a DF01 ultimately, and people are like that, but not a particularly great looking buggy in my opinion. Captain Mainwaring said, and came with the Dynatech motor. Are you talking about the Avante came with the Dynatech motor, or was that the Top Force Evo came with one? Blazing Star is next. That was another DF01. Again, I don't like the body on that. In fact, I like the body on that one even less than the one we just did. So I'm going to knock that one all the way down here into the C section. I mean, the Tamiya, unfortunately, weren't doing pretty RCs back here, were they? What's interesting, and I missed that a second ago, so we did the Terra Conqueror, that was 92. It took them nearly 3 years to put the Dirt Thrasher out, and then another 2 years to push the Blazing Star out. So between the Terra Conqueror and the Blazing Star, it was 5 years of just no advancement in four-wheel drive buggies. Tamiya just said, That's your lot. They were obviously running the Egress for sort of competitive stuff. The Top Force must have been, being sold by the boatload somewhere. And that was it. They were just pumping out this DF01 and that was it. And then they followed the whole thing up with the Baja Champ, which for me, do you know what? I like the look of this buggy. So I am going to put it in the C because I like the look of it more than probably that one. In fact, that's going down here. I hate that thing. It's going here in C because I like the look of the Baja Champ. But I got one of those, and I really, really didn't like it. Like really, it's just so dull to drive, and I gave it a chance. I got one cheap. I got the chassis cheap, and I think I'd bought a touring chassis because I remember having to buy the longer arms to make it into the buggy, and I spent a little bit of money sort of building it up, and it just didn't do anything for me at all. But I did quite like the look of it. At least the Baja Champ I did. But the Baja King, which came out 2 years later, is an absolute turd for me. I hate that thing. Think it looks disgusting. Think it looks like a cheap, ready-to-run car. And that, to me, goes right down the bottom. So you think about it, right? So Tamiya's not released a new four-wheel drive buggy platform for 5 years. No, more than that, for 7 years since the Manta Ray. Terra Conqueror, then they lost their mojo big time with this one, then the Baja Champ. Then they did nothing for 4 years, and then they chucked the Baja King at everybody. I mean, they had just lost their buggy mojo, I think, at this point. They were really feeling it, and then they just lost it. Focus, I think, was on the touring cars. They were doing a lot of stuff there, and doing some sort of monster trucks and things, and they just were not interested in buggies. I think the popularity of buggies must have dropped out in the late 90s, early 2000s. Captain Mainwaring says in there, the Conqueror came with a Dynatech motor. I didn't know that. That's cool. So that was a really premium kit if it came with a Dynatech motor and bearings and the ball diffs, and that, I can see that now why that was such a not a popular kit but a premium kit back in the day. Andy Hall says, here comes the bad stuff. TL01 doesn't drive as bad as it looks, but anything on the chassis is an E for me. yeah, if I had an E classification. I mean, the Baja Champ wasn't that bad looking. The body was quite nice, really, but the chassis was crap. Really, really not good. Bob said he agrees about the Manta Ray. Yeah, Manta Ray was cool. What we got next? DF02, which was them Tamiya yet again. So just take a step back for a second. The TL01B was a buggy version of the TL01 touring car chassis. The DF01 was a buggy version of the TA01 stroke TA02 touring cars, rally cars. So they're taking these road chassis and they're turning them into buggies. Joe's popped up in the feed. Hey Joe, how you doing? And then they took the TT01 touring car chassis and they turned it into the DF02. And we're going to see that repeated again a little bit later in the lineup. But I've not driven a DF02. I would imagine it drives very similar to a TT01. Probably pretty similar to a TT02. Andy Halls just said the DF01 was a buggy first. Thank you for pointing that out, Andy. So that one, they turned the buggy into a touring car, but I definitely think the other ones, they took the touring chassis and turned them into buggies. And for that, I mean, I don't know what I'm going to do with this one. I have no real fascination about the Gravel Hound. I'm going to be sticking that somewhere down here in the C category. If anyone disagrees with me, let me know, because if anyone likes the DF02 or wants to tell me a little bit about it in the comments, please do so. But it is not one that I have got anything good to say about. And I'm going to stick the Rising Storm lower than that. I'm going to put that down here in the D section because I think it looks pretty ugly. And I'm going to jump straight ahead. Now we're at 2004 now with the Rising Storm coming out. So we really are sort of 10 years on from the pinnacle of Tamiya's, four-wheel drive buggies, and we're just churning out stuff that, if I'm honest, wouldn't even be able to compete with the Top Forces, the Egresses, the Terra Scorchers. This group of cars up here, this stuff down here just doesn't get anywhere near, in my opinion. Certainly the modern stuff down here just would be, not as fun to drive, not as entertaining, and, not as joyful, which is what ultimately this should all be about. And then along comes in 2006 the Dark Impact on the DF03 chassis. And I had one of those. I'm going to stick it up here for now, right in the middle of the pack. I had the there's a couple of these. I'm gonna pull these all up now, and let's get them all out of the way. I don't like this one, which is the Keen Hawk, and I'm going to split opinion and say I do quite like the Avante Mark II. I'm going to put that up in the B section, although a lot of people will kill me for saying that. Now, I had the DF03. I had the Avante Mark II. I had a that chassis with a beat up body on it, and I played around with it and built it all up and made it all nice. And I drove it several times out on the track, and it didn't do anything for me. It was just, again, a bit like that Baja chap was. It was just a bit vanilla. It was just a bit boring, and people told me about how fragile the DF03 was, and that there would be bits that start breaking on it. And do you know what the bit that really narked me the most about it? The battery tray was at the bottom, so the battery in and out was no problem. But the battery cables, there was no room in the battery tray for the battery cables to go in. So you had to keep feeding those up into the body, and the tub for the DF03 is really narrow. And there's nowhere for you to put the cables without it rubbing against the drive shaft. So the drive shaft spinning around, all I could see was it rubbing against all the cables and stuff on the inside. I just couldn't get it right. I played around with it, I just couldn't get it right. Don't forget the Vajara. I don't know what that one is. Is that a truggy type situation? The Vajara? I have to look that up now, aren't I? I didn't recall seeing that one when I was going through the list. I don't always get it right. Tamiya Vajara. Yeah, it's a like a truck thing. Is that the Avante truck thing? Yes, the Avante truck. We'll save that for when I do the trucks and the monster truck stuff, and we'll stick it in then. Okay, so we've talked about the DF03 and my disappointment with that, and how, I don't want to say it was a bit dull, yeah. Bob's just said, Dirt Thrasher is a poor boy's Evo. Is that right? The Dirt Thrasher was way down, to be honest. Okay, let's go next one. Next one on the list is... I've lost my list now. Hang on, guys. I'm all out of sync. This is when all the best plans, all best laid plans go to waste, don't they? Right, so... we did the Gravel Hound. We did the Rising Storm. I've missed something here. And I think it's this one. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that there is the TRF 501X, which came out in 2nd December 2006. So that came out after the Dark Impact came out, about 9 months later. And I've stuck that straight up into S because that paved the way for quite a few other things that we're going to talk about as we go through. That buggy, I'm just going to read to you what was on that buggy. So it came with, it had an aluminium centre bulkhead, 3 cross members, and was linked to the front and rear bulkheads via the upper deck on a high strength layout. Slipper clutch was standard. I bought with a ball bearing belt tensioner. Oh, it had belts, didn't it, as well? The TRF 501. Front uprights, new design hub carriers, aeration dampers, saddle designed for saddle packs. Parallel steering geometry. Setup eliminates any discrepancies between the left and the right steering angles. Provides stable cornering. Style body with special stickers. This is in the quest for optimal aerodynamics to obtain the best jump and high-speed cornering performance. The body was tested in wind tunnels. I mean, that buggy, Tamiya went all in on. 4-wheel double wishbone suspension, aeration type oil dampers, multiple attachment points on the damper stays to allow a wide range of settings, full ball bearings, slipper clutch, universal drive shafts. They just went to town on it. What a buggy. What a buggy. But probably not for many. Andy Hall said that's a DF03MS. Where's my 501 then? I don't know. Must be down here somewhere. So I thought that one there is the so I'm gonna that I'm hovering the mouse over it now. I thought that was the MS DF03MS. I think that one up there is the 501. What came after the 501 was the 501 World Edition, which I'm just skipping down to. That was in 2007. Aluminium caster blocks, aluminium rear uprights, reinforced upper arm mounts, specially developed front and rear ball differentials, ball connectors made from extra durable steel. I mean, it just took what was already cool and took it even further. I mean, for me, that's got to be up there. I mean, these buggies were just absolute class. I might stick it down here, maybe. It's not as accessible as it, really, but it's pretty cool. And I like cool stuff like that. And I wish Tamiya would dip back into that back catalogue of super cool TRF buggies that let people have another go with them, that just don't want to spend thousands of pounds on a Tamiya kit, you know. The 501 led then to the DB01 and the Durga, and I'm going to put that in here. I'm going to put it mid-pack in the A's. I like my DB01. I've built it. It's nice. It's beautiful. It's lovely. But there are things about it that I just think Tamiya made some odd choices, like the pins at the wheels at the back. I get it if you're racing a race class buggy, but this was a entry level point. Should have had different hexes on it to make the wheel fitments easier. The maintenance on it is really tough. If you want to change the diff, you've got to take the whole thing apart. It takes ages. I mean, even in a race environment, it's not quick. So I think Tamiya missed a few steps on it. It's lovely, and I'm glad they did it, but it did miss a few steps for me. The next one here is the plasma edge on that DF01 chassis. Drop that in there. Don't like that at all. And this thing here, what have we got? Plasma edge, and then we've got the Boulderer. The Boulderer goes up here, just above the Durga for me, because I quite like the body shell a little bit more. And I've got that body shell to do at some point. Just looking in the comments, see what people are putting. American B2 says, I think the Terra Conqueror is better looking than my Top Force. Do you know, dude? I wish I had one to compare. It doesn't look. I like the colours on it. I absolutely like the colours on it. Joe's got a dirt thrasher. Joe, care to tell me what it's like? Andy Hall says, yeah, the Durga's an A. Mine is mixed to full race spec. It's still a good race driver today, but I won't change the diffs in a hurry. Yeah, mine diff. One of my diffs got a problem with it because it's making a funny sound. So I'm gonna have to take the whole thing apart, and I'm just not looking forward to doing it. It's just on the shelf, and I know it needs to be done. And I didn't get to really run it this year on the track, and when you're just looking at it going, oh, I know I've got to do that job, but I don't really want to do that job. But I am going to have to open it up at some point in the next couple of months. So now we're on to the DF03MS, and I like the MS variants of chassis from the sort of late 2010s that Tamiya did, or sorry, late 2000s, because they were just throwing all the hop ups at them and made them really cool out the box. So the DF03MS, it had full option parts, so it was hard turnbuckle shafts, aluminium dampers with white collar springs. It had a slipper clutch. It had bearings. It had a centre one-way. Front and back ball diffs. They went full bore on that. And I think the DFO3 chassis probably needed that. And it probably made it a heck of a lot better. And I think that's cool. And I wish I could get one of those today. And if I could get one of those, it would take it up to a high B for me. And if I could drive it and knew how it drove, it might even stick it up into the A category if I could drive it. So American B2, put the gear diffs in the DBO1. Yeah, I think I'm going to do that. Best plastic buggy by Tamiya. I think you're right. I think you're right in terms of drivability, raceability against sort of modern buggies. But it doesn't quite carry the same nostalgia of some of those others that I've put above it in this table for me. And everyone's different, right? Everyone will be judging this list on different things. Joe says, I bought it and used it. It's in the middle of a rebuild. I've never driven it. Is that the DBO1, Joe? Is it? You've got one that you've dismantled and not ever got around to driving yet. Next on the list, I didn't know anything about this buggy, so I had to look it up, is the TRF08X, which is a 1/8 scale buggy. And it looked like it was sort of a competition 1/8 scale, full bore, all that sort of stuff. I don't know anything about it. I think it's cool, but for me, it's just something that sits sort of in here, probably above some of the crud. And that's just me being ignorant about it. I don't know anything about the 801X. What came after that then was the 511X, which again I don't really know anything about. It reads like it was a refinement of the 501. So almost every part came newly designed from feedback gathered from the race team, improved overall weight balance with the battery, the RC unit position being redefined for optimum stability for jumping and landing, the upper and lower separate covered bulkheads, as well as the new front and rear gearbox covers for excellent maintenance ability. So it sounds like the 511X was taking what they'd learned from the 501 and just making it easier to run and drive, which, man, if we could get some of this stuff again, do you know what I mean? I would love it. Absolutely love it. UJ Light, morning. How are you doing, buddy? It's late evening here in the UK. I think you're in Australia, if my mind is right, if my memory is correct. Late on a Saturday night here in the UK. But good morning to you. We're nearly at the end of this. We're right into the sort of modern-ish buggies now. And there'll be quite a lot of DB conversations in a second. Sorry, little drink break there. It's a lot of talking doing these. I love it. Okay, where are we at? we have got the DB01R. So the R came with the following option parts. A motor heatsink, slipper clutch, reinforced drive belts, and front and rear universal joints, and some high performance suspension aeration dampers, aluminium bushings which work together with the upper arms to provide excellent traction to the track surface, aluminium suspension mounts and suspension blocks. So with the stuff that I've got for the DB01, I am probably going to be pushing mine close to a R spec, which is pretty neat, and that will certainly push it up my list of happy things. Next is the TRF02X, which was taking things off of the first, what was I just said a minute ago, this one, and putting them onto the 0501 platform. Don't know where I'm going to stick that, probably up here somewhere. I mean, these TRF buggies have got to go towards the top end, haven't they? It wouldn't be right to stick them anywhere else other than towards the top end of this, because they're just beautiful, wonderful buggies that we'll never see again from Tamiya, I worry. And it'd be nice if they just dropped a little something like that. It'd be nice if they gave us now they've got the DB01 back out, maybe they could, just recreate the 501 or the 502 or something like that. Next up, we're in February 2012 now, and Tamiya gave us the Leonis, which I don't know much about. Looks like it was based on the TRF 502 rather than the 501, so there must have been a bit of crossover, right? Uncle Bob's asked me where the TT02BR is, and that's a really good point, Bob. I'll tell you where it is. I forgot about it, and therefore I didn't put a picture on. But we'll come to that in a little bit, and maybe I'll add that to the TM Acre before we finish it up. So the Leonis, I don't like the look of this thing. I think it looks a bit bulbous. I'm sure there'll be others that will whinge about it. I'm going to stick it sort of in here somewhere. So I'll put it with that 50, that 801, because I don't really know a lot about that. I don't really like the look of Leonis. I think it came around a little bit late in the day, really. Tamiya was sort of winding up a lot of this race spec stuff, and I just don't think there was the market for it, really. Shame, because I think it could have been, well, Tamiya could now, if they were to bring some of this stuff back, I think there'd be a better market for it now than there was then. August 28th, 2013 saw the TT02B land in the Neo Scorcher. And I'll tell you what, I got one of those. I was probably the 4th or 5th RC that I built back into the hobby. And for the money that you pay for that kit, it is a brilliant place to start the RC hobby, because you can get spare parts really easy for it. You can hop it up and move towards the BR spec if you want to. And from what I've experienced, it's pretty solid. You can do an awful lot with that before you start breaking things. Yes, it has its limitations. It slightly understeers. It doesn't always go in a straight line. The tracking is really hard. There's a lot of sort of steering issues with it, which is frustrating. And the ride height is quite low. But I think it's a fantastic place to jump into RC. And for that reason, I am going to put it as a low A. Yes, it doesn't have the draw that some of these buggies in that A class have. But I think there's a lot of people who, certainly young kids getting into the hobby, that will be starting with this, and in 20 years' time there'll be fond memories of this buggy for some people. Next up, Tamiya was still dropping little RRRs with people when they said we got the DB01RR, which added, it had the slipper clutch, I mean, I don't know what was different about the RR because the notes I've got here almost seems to make it sound like it was exactly the same as the R. Um, oh, it's got the big bore dampers on it. So it put the big bore dampers on that one. Okay, well, it's got to go in with all the other DBO ones, really, hasn't it? It'd only be fair. TRF 03 is next. It takes the veteran chassis, the 511, and builds upon it using Tamiya's extensive race knowledge and lots of new parts. So when they went to town on that thing, by the looks of it, really, really spent a lot of time improving that buggy. So we'll drop that in up here with all the other TRF models. Then we had the TT02B MS with that monstrosity of a body shell, which was the Dual Ridge, I want to say, or something like that. I mean, that thing's a bit of a stinker, isn't it? A bit of a stinker. The MS TT02B had FRP damper stays, CVA oil shocks, turnbuckles on the upper arms, aluminium uprights. I don't think the MS chassis was as good as the BR that they did recently. And I absolutely hate that body shell. I think that looks disgusting. So I'm sticking it down here in C. Looks like I'm getting a bit of flack for putting the TT02B up in the A spec. What's Andy Hall say? Andy says he agrees about it being an A, that's fine. Well, no, sorry, he agrees with what I said about the TT02B, but an A, at least it's behind the Avante. Yeah, look, I suppose putting it in A, I'm kind of, I suppose it could be a high B, couldn't it? It could be a high B. I just think there'll be a lot of people that will look back on that buggy and go, that was where my RC adventure started. And they're 13, 14, 15 years later. And yes, they might have moved on to better kits and better things and bigger things and faster things. But I think they'll look back on that buggy with perhaps some of the vintage nostalgia that we look at some of the other things. Because, yes, I've put a Hotshot as an S because I love it. But I think there'll be other people that will look at that and go, that's such a basic four-wheel drive. It doesn't hold a candle to any of those other things up there because they're faster, they're stronger, they've got technology that's advanced, but that's the one that I loved really quite a lot when I was starting out, and I think that's where I feel that TT02B will sit. But again, this is just my opinion. I will make this tier maker available for everybody once I finish, so you guys can go and look it up and play around with it. And I think I need to send an email to tier maker to turn it and make it a public list so you can all play around with it. But I'll do that at some point. Okay. We've got 3 more to go. We're nearly there. The next one is the DB01RRR, which took the RR kit and then added some even more stuff. So aluminium suspension mounts, giving a great skid angle, some stuff to do toe-in for giving higher grip, aluminium heatsink to protect from dust, ABS resin wheels with hex-shaped hubs, so they did change that, and hex screws throughout to offer excellent provision. So they took it a step further. It looks like there's some stuff on there that's creeping into that that DB01SR that we've got coming out. I think that's going to be a sort of blend of all of that stuff. It's really interesting. There's been a lot of debate. Every time I mention that thing, people are telling me that I think that's coming in, 350 quid for that SR. And there are other people that think I've got that way off base because it's not going to have certain things, and they think it'll be a lot cheaper. They think it'll be more like sort of 250. I mean, if that comes in at 250, I'll be amazed. But that'll be good. That'll be good. I have got the TT02B Plasma Edge there, which I we'll put up here somewhere because I'll put it with the other one. We could quite easily have pretended that that one was the BR version. So the BR version, I liked the look of that, and I was going to get one, but I stopped myself in the end. And the reason I stopped myself was because I felt it was an awful lot of money hopping up something that I just don't think I'm going to get enough out of it. But seeing some of you guys in the comments, it makes it sound like that BR version's pretty good. Joe said it, Bob said it. Maybe I need to revisit it. Maybe I need to rethink my opinion on that. Although they have stopped making it, I believe. It's discontinued. Right, we're on to the last one. We're on to the TD4. Now, I wanted to come back to this thing because when you look at this list, I've put this together based on my feelings about these buggies, how desirable I feel those buggies would be for me, whether or not I would want them, where they would sit in this structure if I could buy all of them whenever I wanted to, what would be the sort of order that I would buy them in. And unfortunately, this thing is going to go down here. And the reason it's going in down there is, and it's only because Tamiya, the last new chassis they did was the TT02B. And they released that in 2013. And it took them 10 years to come up with something new. And what they gave us new eventually was the TD4. And the TD4 just didn't get any traction whatsoever. People didn't like the body shell on it. People didn't like the fact they used the Avante name on it. People found it was a hassle to get the battery in and out, which I think it was. The tub to put the electrics in was not big enough. So if you were using a brushless setup in there, you couldn't get it all in comfortably and easily enough. Everything was rubbing up against the drive shaft. Problems with the diffs, with the alloy nut not being in the kit to start with, and there being a plastic one that just stripped the minute you put it together. Getting to the diff was a pain in the backside. I mean, it's bad on the DB01. It's even harder, I think, on the TD4 to get in there and get the diff. Didn't come with a slipper out the box, which a lot of people felt it should have done. There was just too much that wasn't right about that chassis. And because Tamiya priced it so high to start with, there was £300 in the UK for that chassis, which is a little bit why I think the DB01 SR is going to come in a bit higher. It needed to be special. It needed to make people go, this is ace. The TD2 I loved, and it's very, very similar, but this one just seemed to be overcomplicated for me. And I've got a version of it. I've got one that's reasonably well hopped up. It's got quite a lot of nice hopped blue parts on it, and I bought it for dirt cheap, and I still don't like it. So yeah, it just didn't really work for me. I've got it. I'll give it another go before I decide whether or not I'm going to sell it. But for me, I wouldn't rush out and buy another one. And I did have one. I sold it, and I'm sure people have loved it, and I'm sure people have hated it. But for me, it's a C-Class one, and it's staying there. So there you go. We have reached the end of my four-wheel drive talk. I hope you guys have all enjoyed that. That looks like a reasonable list for me. Some of you guys will want me to have put the Avante higher. Some of you will think I should have put some things lower. But my S cars, my top tier cars, Top Force Evo, Hot Shot, Terra Scorcher, Egress, 501. If I had nothing but those 5 four-wheel drive Tamiya buggies, I think I'd be a pretty happy man. Because I would have something of everything there. I'd have the nostalgia and the vintage cars. I would have some sort of older, modern racing buggies. And then I'd have a more modern Tamiya race buggy as well. But where does Tamiya go from here? What is in the future for Tamiya's four-wheel drive buggies? Or is there not a future for Tamiya four-wheel drive buggies? Have they peaked? Is this the most we'll see? Yeah, because I just don't see it. The TD4 was a flop. I just don't see where they're going to go. I hope the DB01SR is a success for them. I wish the TO2BR had been slightly better priced, because I think that could have been a better success. But yeah, where do you guys think it will go? Why don't you drop me a comment on the video when it lands on YouTube? Send me an email with your thoughts on, or maybe this can be a topic that maybe Phil and I can discuss on a future episode of Talks Tamiya. Guys, thanks for joining me tonight. To all of you that commented, took the time to watch along and listen to me droning on a Saturday evening, and I appreciate all of you, and I wish you all a nice rest of the weekend, and take care. Thanks, guys. Cheers.